Okay, going to make a quick video about how to make the tone arm adjustment on a dual 1000 series turntable. This is a 1019, but the principles here will apply to any of the duals, and the only distinction between some of the dual turntables is in the presence or absence in this 1000 series of the lift mechanism, the cueing mechanism, or of the anti-skating device. So I'm going to ignore the function of those for the moment, but if you do have a cueing mechanism and an anti-skating mechanism, set the anti-skating to 0 for this exercise and set the cueing mechanism in the down position, which is actually towards the rear of the turntable. This would lift the arm and this would actually allow the arm to drop, and we want the arm to be freely moving. Well, the first thing you need to do when you're going to set up a turntable like this is to make sure it's level. Now you can take a bubble level like this, which is a really quick and easy way to get it level in all directions, and the aim here is that you want to get the bubble in the center of the ring. The slight problem with a lot of turntables, and the dual's no exception, is that at different parts of the platter you might well get different readings. So to overcome this, I take a flat record, and it would be one that I'm not going to damage it, but it would be one that wasn't maybe worth hundreds of dollars. So you're just going to take an inexpensive, replaceable record, if you like, from your collection. And just make sure it's flat, so it's not kind of wavy, warped or anything. And then you're going to put your spirit level somewhere on the arc between the arm and the center of the record, because this is really the critical area that you need to focus on. And you can see from looking at this that the bubble is off to this direction, which means that the turntable is a little bit high on this side, so I need to raise that side of the turntable. And what I'm going to use today, I've just kind of grabbed a few bits and pieces, and I'm just going to quickly get the turntable level by inserting some of these things that I've got lying around. You wouldn't normally want to be using mini discs. You might want to use shims, either wooden shims or plastic shims like this, but I've only got one, so I'm having to make do. So I'm going to put this now onto the tripod and then get that level. And I'm watching the bubble just to make sure that it's moving in the right kind of direction. There's no adjustable feet on this model of dual, so you're really relying on just blocking up underneath the turntable. And that's very close now to being level. I'll just show you the difference now on that. And that's kind of nicely centered. I don't know if you can see that, but that's nice and level now, so we can start to do things with the turntable. So I'm going to take this off. The next stage is to set the force gauge, which is this control here. Some of them are on the outside, but on the 1000 series they're here. To set that to 0. You see it as you turn it this way, that would increase the force, but we're going to balance the arm initially, and the first thing we need to do is to get the arm weightless at the cartridge, and with a setting of 0. Now the way you do that is actually very simple. If you haven't already got your weight attached, the weight on a 1000 series, the counterweight slides on the back. It's got a grooved shaft, and that fits into a shaped slot in the back of the tone arm. So you just slide that in, and now we're going to make sure that I don't damage my stylus by putting my stylus guard down and loosening the tone arm. And you can see that what's happened then, the tone arm is immediately raised up. And what we're going to try and do, we're going to try and get this tone arm completely level. Remembering that the turntable is level, we now want this to be completely horizontal and parallel with the surface of the record. So I'm going to put this camera back onto the stand while I make these adjustments. And the way you make the initial adjustment is what you might call the coarse adjustment. So steadying the tone arm, just push on the weight at the back, just push it in slightly and then see what happens to the tone arm. This is still too high. It's higher than the rest of the arm, so there's not enough weight in the head to move it down. On a low it will bounce up and down a little bit. It wants to settle in the upward position. So I'm going to push a little bit more. And that's now too heavy, so I've gone a little bit too far on that. So for that coarse adjustment I can just pull this out a shade until I get fairly close to a position of balance, because we're going to make the other adjustments using the fine controls of the arm. And for the sake of this exercise I'm going to speed things up by just tightening that control. And there we are. That's probably not far off where we need to be actually, but what we're going to do now is just very carefully, because we don't want to damage the stylus or the record at this stage, just to see whether the stylus wants to go down or up at the end, and we want it to just kind of sit there. That tone arm is now going down a little bit and you can quite clearly see that it's kind of aiming down, so the tone arm head and the cartridge is a little bit too heavy. So what I'm going to do now is back that off, take that weight off by turning this weight control counterclockwise, and then check the arm and just aim for the arm being just nice and floaty, if it's a technical term. What we're trying to do, we're trying to make it so that there's no weight on the stylus, and the stylus should just float slightly over the surface of the record. I'm going to put a tad more weight on there. Very small adjustments here make a big difference to the height of the stylus above the record, and that's very close to where we need that to be, by which I mean the stylus is now just hovering. Let's just rock that. Just hovering above the surface of the record. That's moving very nicely. So now that we've got that close, what we need to do is to tighten this adjustment knob here, a coarse adjustment, and I'm going to be very careful here again. I don't want to damage this stylus, so I'm going to put the arm back and protect it like this, and then tighten this control. I'm not going to touch this anymore because that's now adjusted to a zero balance. So at the moment it wouldn't play a record because you've now got 0 grams, so there's no force to hold the stylus down in the groove. And a big mistake some people make is they don't have enough force and they try to play the records as light as possible, which is not a good idea. You want to follow the cartridge manufacturer's recommendations for the amount of force required on the cartridge. And in the case of the Shure, I actually find that it works really well if you adjust the weight here to about 1.75, somewhere between 1.75 and 2, maybe 1.8, 1.9. It's going to be slight guesswork with the jaws because it's not very finely marked. It's just got 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. But visually you can get some kind of a feel. If you want to be more accurate, you can use a stylus gauge. But for most intents and purposes, this is going to be absolutely fine. And at that point now, when you take the record, take the stylus and release it, it now goes nicely onto the record. Okay, here we are, and that's all there is to balancing a tone arm. Now the next stage, if you have the 1019, is to make adjustments to the lateral bias But I'm not going to go into that for this particular video. I just wanted to show how the tone arm is adjusted, and that's it.